This is Inspiring Design, where unique innovators come together to share their knowledge, share their insight, and keep us up to date with the latest industry trends. And here's your host, Roshan Senanayake.
What's up, listeners? Welcome to Season 4 of Inspiring Design with Roshan Senanayake. This is where the best of the best brands, experts, change makers, and thought leaders come together to share their valuable insights, experience, and knowledge, all centered around the growth sector in advanced manufacturing within Industry 4.0, encompassing various industries, technologies, skills, knowledge, trends, as well as stakeholders, all the while linking it back into education within schools and universities. What's up, listeners? Let's get straight into it, and let me introduce you to today's amazing guest, Clare Blain. Clare has worked with Life Sciences Queensland, LSQ, since its inception in 2011 and now represents the organization's members in her role as the Chief Executive Officer. Previously Chief Operating Officer and Operations Manager at LSQ, Clare is passionate about highlighting the integral role life science innovation plays in Queensland's diverse economy. Prior to joining LSQ, Clare was the marketing manager at Queensland Clinical Trials Network, where she played a key role in positioning organizations as the primary point of contact for pre-clinical and clinical research within Australia. As a result, she successfully identified and connected a range of sponsors with members, including research institutions, hospitals, clinical research organizations, and other life science service providers. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. Clare, welcome to Inspiring Design. Can we start off with a little bit of background on yourself? What's your story, your history?
Yeah, not a problem. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure.
So, as you said, I'm Clare Blain. I'm the CEO of Life Sciences Queensland, which is an industry association representing all of life sciences, so including industrial biotechnology, human healthcare, marine biotechnology, and essentially it's nurturing Queensland's potential to feed, fuel and heal the citizens of Queensland and the rest of the world. As I said, I'm a CEO, I'm a wife, I'm a mother of two small kids. My eldest son, Jack, is 7 and Grace is 5, both in school this year, so we're happy about one drop-off, which is fantastic.
Yeah, very busy life indeed.
Very busy life, yeah. So my background at university, I did a Bachelor of Marketing and Public Relations at Queensland University of Technology at Gardens Point.
Yep.
After graduating, I went into my first job with Master Builders Queensland, of all industry associations.
Yeah, right.
So helped with their events and marketing, gained that experience, saw a job opportunity with Queensland Clinical Trials Network, and so I moved over to that position, and I've been here ever since. So in 2011, QCTN, or Queensland Clinical Trials Network, actually became Life Sciences Queensland, because we saw a need to move out of just human healthcare and capitalise on the regional opportunities Queensland has to offer in terms of industrial biotechnology, ag biotechnology, etc.
Yeah, wow. So that's a bit of a career shift change, going from marketing into the sciences.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that like?
It was very interesting.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yes. And it's a steep learning curve. And as I said, life sciences represents everything across feeding, healing and fueling the world. So very diverse. But with my marketing background, my role is really to just promote and showcase the industry capabilities here in Queensland to the rest of the world.
Awesome. Well, that's very cool. And one of the things I got to be honest with you is that I am going to come with a blank canvas when it comes to knowing what I think is life science. So one of the questions that I wanted to ask you was, especially from the listener's point of view as well, what exactly is life science and what is biotechnology?
Yeah, so I guess the simplest thing to explain it is our motto, which is feeding, fueling and healing. So it could be vaccine development. For instance, our members, the UQ, were working on the COVID vaccine, as you might have known.
Yep.
That research is still going behind the background. It hasn't completely stopped. There's fueling, so looking at industrial biofuels. There's a QT biocommodities pilot plant up in Mackay where they use sugarcane waste and convert that into biofuels and other higher value products, etc. So degradable plastic bottles and such.
Yeah. So biofuels, is that a fancy word for food?
No, biofuels, so that's actually biodiesel, so going into airplanes and...
Oh, right, I see.
Yeah.
Wow, so it's more of a sustainable option alongside like electric vehicles and so on. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome. And what does this look like compared to, let's say, obviously we're in the 21st century at the moment, but compared to what life science was, say, 20 years ago, how does that change from the 21st century?
Yeah, well, we're keeping up with the new technologies available, but Australia's really had a long and successful history in life sciences. We've developed the cochlear implant, the CPAP machine for sleep apnea. We've also developed Wi-Fi technology. A lot of people don't know that that's actually an Australian invention.
I see.
Out of
Wow.
CSIRO.
Yep.
And so therefore Google Maps, etc. And then more recently in Queensland, you might be aware of the cervical cancer vaccine called Gardasil. So that was run out of by Professor Ian Fraser.
Yeah, wow.
So we've got so many inventions. More recently, we've got Illume, who you might have seen in the news recently, was funded by the US government to the tune of $230 million, I believe, for their at-home COVID diagnostic tests. We also have the likes of Lawina Bio, which is a contract manufacturing firm based here in Brisbane. So they work across the pharmaceuticals, biotechnology and veterinary industries. And they've experienced significant growth as well. About 5 years ago, I think it was, they had 12 staff. Now they have over 100.
Yeah, right.
And another one is Vaxxus, which have created the nanopatch, so essentially a needleless vaccine delivery device. So there's some incredible inventions happening, and there's surely more to come. I can just feel it.
Yeah, and I actually found this very interesting TED Talk by Bill Gates. I think he did that in 2014 on how the future problems of the world in the next 100 years is actually going to be more focused in the bio and the life science industries, and the problems we're going to see aren't necessarily going to be tangible. They're going to be microscopic, and he raised some really good, I think, things to think about, food for thought, and most of that focus I feel like is in life sciences and biotechnologies. And I think because of the COVID environment, we've got a bit of understanding on how this falls within mass production. Everyone in the world needs a vaccine all of a sudden. So, but in your point of view, how does this sector classify as an advanced manufacturing industry point of view?
Yeah, so, well, further to that TED Talk as well, we've got a increasingly growing population. We're going to need to feed that population.
Yeah.
So utilising new technologies in synthetic biology. Everyone's heard of the plant-based burger, for instance. So different technologies like that. There's a raft of innovations happening in that space as well, because especially within Asia, so our close proximity to Asia gives Queensland a really great advantage. We're 8 hours from 2/3 of the world's population.
Yeah.
And their lower and middle class are actually rising up and becoming wealthier, so want access to higher value products, especially food. So feeding those that population into the future is going to be a massive challenge as well.
I'm a bit of a KFC fan, and I got to say, I recently found out they were printing chicken, and so it was a plant-based alternative, and haven't seen too much about it, and I think it's not in Australia yet.
But it's interesting how the world's shifting into that era. So I think there's some really interesting work happening now. When you came from a very different background, and now you're heading up Life Sciences Queensland. So when it comes to the skills and attributes that this sector needs, especially, let's say, if a student's really passionate about wanting to be in life sciences and enjoys biotechnology, what kind of skills and attributes do they need to develop and focus on, let's say, right now for entering in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, they really need that appetite to want to heal, feed and fuel the world. I think that's really important. They need that passion and dedication, because drug development, for instance, doesn't just happen overnight. It's a very long process, so you need that stamina and eagerness to keep going. But across life sciences, there's so many various skills required. And if we just look at one of my member companies, Luina Bio, and their advanced manufacturing facility, you could almost break their organisation into 3 different categories. So the first is around the quality organisation, and there's different roles there in terms of regulatory affairs, meeting all the FDA, that's the Federal Drug Administration for the US, or the Therapeutic Goods Association here in Australia, meeting their requirements. There's also quality control, so looking at the raw materials and testing that, making sure it's up to scratch. Next, there's also the operations side of the business. So that's more on the manufacturing side, which includes fermentation, the scale-up production, process development, supply chain, as well as engineering and facilities management. And then lastly, you have the support services. So it also has roles such as HR, finance, business management. So the skill set is enormous, and there's
everything.
so many. It covers everything, and that's just one organisation we're talking about. And the skills in the future are going to need to change as well to meet the new technologies. And some technologies we don't even know about yet. So it'll be really interesting. And I know there's a Queensland Government task force to actually look at addressing the current and future skills gap. We'll also probably need to do some more vocational training programs as well to address that gap. But if it's of interest to your listeners, LSQ actually has a webinar series in career, so you can actually learn about the career pathways, how to get there. We actually did one on advanced manufacturing a while ago as well, so awesome. I can provide a link to your listeners as well.
Definitely, we'll be able to access that in the show notes for sure, so make sure you guys check that out right after the episode. And how do you think STEAM skills, so science, technologies, engineering, arts and mathematics, I feel like you kind of already explained it, but I feel like STEAM is in the center of all of those different factors.
Absolutely. And I think the other important thing people should think about is not thinking of engineering as a silo, maths as a silo. You really need to get across and meet your peers in those other sectors to try and collaborate and work together. And it's not just researchers working with researchers, it's universities partnering with industry, partnering with government. So it's a collaborative effort in a lot of the life sciences as well.
Yeah, awesome. And while you're talking, one of the things that went through my mind was a very passionate subject for myself, which is design thinking. And those elements of collaboration, empathy, and experimentation, I feel like are in the core of almost all of those things that you said. So it's really good to hear that from obviously a life science expert, because I think from a student's point of view, if they're thinking about that kind of career path, they can then prepare themselves, unlike, let's say, 30 years ago when the lack of information wasn't as available to us. So we've talked about the different types of skills involved in this sector, but what about the technologies? Now, you mentioned obviously that there are going to be technologies we don't even know of, and that's just the reality right now when it comes to tech. So what are some technologies that are used within life sciences at the moment?
Yeah, so for instance, there's robotics. So instead of having farmers go out and pick and potentially squash, let's say, a tomato, there's a robot that can be set up and go along each of the vines and be able to pick it without damaging the fruit. There's automation and drone technologies that are being used. VR, AI, Internet of Things. There's so many different technologies, but I see a lot of work in the robotics space, and there's actually a robotics arm hub that has just opened in Brisbane as well. So
Yeah.
I haven't gone there yet, but in the next couple of weeks we're actually going to check it out.
Awesome. And I think that's the really cool, exciting part, because the norm of what we used to think those industries were like, it's actually now quite different. You need to actually be tech savvy to a certain extent to be even just operate things and be familiar with those things. So I'm loving everything that you're putting down right now.
Yeah, and for instance, another group here in Brisbane is the Hurston Biofabrication Institute. So that's all about the hospital of the future. So having a 3D printer machine next to the operating theatre, so you can print a new hip replacement and things like this.
That's
and that
powerful.
actually, it's really exciting. But going back to the collaboration effort as well, they, for instance, get video gamers to come in and work with them to help create the virtual reality sensory for doctors. So say, for instance, someone's gone out spearfishing and they accidentally shoot themselves with a spear.
Wow.
You can kind of, in real time, a doctor in a remote hospital speaking with someone an expert in Brisbane per se, and through virtual reality they can actually help them do the operation and remove that spear without missing vital organs and such.
That's great.
So that's another instance of the collaboration. Who would have thought gamers would be in the hospital room?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's very valuable insight, because the collaboration essentially means that there are underlying transferable skills that work within a wide array of what we used to think were siloed industries. So this is great. Now, when we're talking about skills and attributes, the next question that I always want to take this conversation to is, do you think the current education system, whether secondary or tertiary, is aligned with the requirements for the next 5, 10, 20, 30, 50 years?
I'd say not as much as it should be, but if we look back over the past 10 years, I definitely see a significant improvement in STEM and the support, especially of women coming into predominantly male-dominated industries such as manufacturing. There's a predisposition that it's a dirty industry, but it's actually not. And I encourage students to try and reach out to industry and see if they can get a site tour of these manufacturing facilities, because the codes they have to actually go through, it's extremely clean to the point, Patheon, to do a full site tour of there, you actually can't even wear makeup, you're fully gowned, so it's actually quite clean. But we could do more, and I think that partnership between schools and industry is really important. So programs like the Gateway to Industry Schools program, I think that's really great program, and they actually have 10 different sectors, and advanced manufacturing is one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually one of our partners that we work really closely with for all the regions in Queensland. So
fantastic.
Massive changes you can see with the schools coming on board and the kids actually being able to see hands-on. So you're 100% right there. Now, one of the factors, the biggest, I think, focus, and quite underrated in my opinion, is where the educator, the teacher, is actually placed in this entire game, and they've been put under an immense lot of pressure with so many responsibilities. The almost an assumed element that they need to keep up with this fast-growing technologies within a very short period of time, on top of all these other administrative tasks as well as teaching. So what's your advice for teachers in schools, especially looking at this the technology evolution, the way the industry is changing, and where obviously education's in the middle of this shift? What's your advice for them?
perhaps look at different industry bodies or even industry itself and see how we might be able to partner and create some new STEM programs within the schools. As I said, the STEM pathway has come a long way in the past even 5 years, but I think there's still room to go. But it's working with the industry to figure out what it is they need and do it in conjunction with them. But there is, as I said, a Queensland Government task force on that skills, so I'm hoping there'll be some advice coming out of that for teachers and the vocational sector as well.
Yeah, awesome. And are there any links or resources that you could point to for teachers to be able to go and read more about life sciences?
Yeah, absolutely. There's the Life Sciences Queensland website, which is just all the W's, lsq.com.au. They can also, I encourage them to go and look at the Gateway to Industry Schools program, and that website I think you'd have on your links.
That'll be, we actually spoke with Jules McMurtry, who runs that program for advanced manufacturing.
Yes.
I believe that was episode 2, so shout out to her. Go and check out the links on the show notes for episode 2 as well. So awesome. Any other resources you can mention?
Queensland Government, as always, has a wealth of information. The Chief Scientist Office just launched their visualisation tool, which actually maps out all of the various research institutes and their capabilities. So you can go and find different research institutes and look up them for more information as well. So if you just Google visualisation tool, Department of Environment and Science, it should come up for you.
Perfect. And obviously the most important factor that we're all working towards is our human future capital, and our students and graduates. You know, they might the future innovator of one of the revolutionary things in life sciences might still be in grade 4 right now. And what's your advice for students and graduates right now?
Get out there and learn about the industry and the potential. Reading is so important. I encourage my kids all the time to read. And there's so many various books from primary school right through that they can access. And then network every chance you get, especially the older levels. I really encourage networking. As you get even older as well, LinkedIn is a valuable tool to meet industry, but just don't blindly reach out to people either. Have a clear purpose. And remember, it's a two-way relationship. What do they get out of being a connection of yours? But yeah, I encourage them all to investigate careers in STEM. It's exciting. It's going to be fast-paced and ever-changing. And yeah, companies are just growing, so they're going to need lots more staff, and we want to employ Queenslanders. We don't want to keep importing from overseas.
Absolutely, and I think that's valuable advice. So lastly, if anyone wants to learn more about this from you, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, my contact details are on the LSQ website. I have an open door policy. My door's always open, and I'm here to help. If I can't help you directly, I'll certainly find out who can and put you in touch.
Awesome. There you go, guys. So Claire, it's been a pleasure, and I've learned a lot personally myself because I didn't know too much about this industry. So thank you so much for your time.
No worries. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
That's it for today's episode. Now it's time to take action and build on the learnings to get inspired. First up, jump onto roshansenanayaka.com/podcast and check out the show notes, links, and other relevant learning materials from this amazing episode. Next, if you learned something new today, click that subscribe button and set yourself up to receive live notifications on future episodes, as well as more opportunities to learn from our amazing guests, brands, and speakers. Last but not least, it's time to have your say. Join the conversation and share your thoughts and feedback on today's episode with a review, all while joining many others with a 5-star rating for Inspiring Design with Roshan Senanayaka. Till next time.